Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Monmouth County. Welcome to all in person and on the live stream. My name is Maxine Forster Gunther, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I am a very long-time member, and I currently serve on the Caring Committee and as a facilitator for a Covenant Circle. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived at this beloved place, you are welcome here. Our mission is to create community, transform ourselves, and transform the world. This morning, we are honored and grateful to welcome our guest speaker, Kristi Nelson, and musician Tom McCormick. Kristi Nelson is the author of Wake Up Grateful, the transformative practice of taking nothing for granted. She is currently an ambassador for Grateful Living and served as the organization's executive director for about 10 years. Her life's work in the nonprofit sector has focused on leading, inspiring, and strengthening organizations committed to progressive social and spiritual change. Being a long-time stage 4 cancer survivor moves her every day to support others in living and loving with great fullness of heart. And those of us who were here for the incredible workshop yesterday can attest to that. It was outstanding. Tom McCormick has performed for us before. You've enjoyed him many times. He has performed on club and college stages across the country as a solo artist with his band and with his presentation, Hate Speech and Love Songs. He has released 3 CDs, written and produced music for HBO, Cinemax, and the Style Network, and co-founded GLAMA, the Gay Lesbian American Music Awards. I draw your attention to the backside of your order of service for announcements and service information for the week. For those on the live stream and for video viewers, the order of service link is available to you in the YouTube service description box. And I just want to add, if you could kindly turn your phones off during this service, that would be greatly appreciated. So a couple of important announcements. Okay, Bob Kelly has sponsored over the years outstanding concerts in this Earth Room. So the Earth Room concerts are beginning again. Contemporary folk music series restarts next weekend, featuring the married duo Ash and Eric from Worcester, Massachusetts, on Saturday, October 12th at 7:30. Evocative songwriting and fine vocal harmonies make them up-and-coming artists. For more information and tickets, see Bob Kelly. You want to just stand up so people can see you, or raise your hand? Okay, he'll be at the coffee hour, or you can go to the earthroomconcerts.org website. We hope to see you there. And one more announcement. Yesterday's workshop, as I mentioned, was outstanding and inspirational. Author Kristi Nelson will join us in the community room after the service, and her books will be for sale with an opportunity to have her sign them.
Hi there, I'm Tom McCormick, and I am very grateful to be here. And one of the things that I learned yesterday at Kristi's wonderful workshop was sometimes it's just, or at least this is what I got from it, sometimes it's just about stepping into that space and being present, regardless of what you may need or want or have to bring or think that you have to bring or hope to bring, but just to kind of show up. So thank you for all showing up today. When I shared the titles of the songs that I wanted to play today, Reverend Craig asked me, this first song is called Called Out of Hiding, and he asked if this was regarding LGBTQ issues and coming out. And I said, it certainly touches on that, but for me, it's about all of us having something to come out from. We all, I think, find ways to hide, and a lot of that is relating to fear. And one of the things that I have learned in my journey is that fear is frequently the flag saying, this is the way. And it's hard sometimes to embrace that and to follow that, but I've seen so many times how much that can really be a shortcut to greater growth and exploration and understanding. So I offer this song to you all and invite you to find ways that you may come out of hiding on your own. Call me out of hiding. Call me out of hiding. There's a child who's playing, trying not to be found. There's a man who's awaiting his time. There's a woman who's hoping, though there's no one around. Someone in the dark will hear her whisper, I'm asking you to call me out of hiding. Call me out of hiding. And the child is waiting for the courage to go, while the woman still listens alone. And the man sits awakened, but wonders how he's to know when it's time to push away the stone. To no one he says, call me out of hiding. Call me out of hiding. I'm there in your need to find your way out of this fight, because I share in your freedom as you come into the light. When the moment is right, still doubting, you'll come running, shouting, come out, come out, come out, come out of hiding. Called out of hiding. I'm asking you to call me out of hiding. I want to be called out of hiding. Call me out of hiding. I want to be called out of hiding. Call me. Won't you please call me out of hiding? Thank you.
I'm the Reverend Dr. Craig Rubano, and it is good to be together at the start of a month in which our theme will be deep listening. Deep listening. And we gather this morning in the midst of the Jewish high holy days that bid us to stop and reconsider the paths our lives are taking, to forgive and ask for forgiveness. And it is good to be together even at a time when so many are living in the aftermath of disaster, of war, of uncertainty, of fear. When 101 hostages, including 4 U.S. citizens, still languish in captivity a year since the Hamas terrorist attacks of October 7th. When so many suffer under the protracted Israeli military response in Gaza. When people go in and out of bomb shelters to shield themselves from Hezbollah and Iranian missile attacks. When here in this country people are still without power, internet, water, and many without loved ones, homes, infrastructure, in the wake of Hurricane Helene. And when so very many are troubled and scared by the vitriolic political contests being waged, with so many of our values and principles under attack. And yet, we gather together. We thank again Kristi Nelson for an enlightening and life-giving workshop yesterday. It has been a joyful time collaborating with her on this weekend's activities, and I'm thrilled, as someone who has really benefited from her writing, to have her with us here this morning. She reminds us to be aware of and name our emotions, whatever they are this morning. Give them space, give them acceptance without judgment. And she asks us to notice how, with open curiosity, those emotions, instead of being paralyzing, become indicators of who we are, the deliverers of true meaning to us, guides for us along the way. She encourages us to enact practices of gratefulness, for gratefulness needs only that we be awake. In every moment, there is potential for gratefulness, if only for the privilege of having the moment in the first place. Our call to worship, with worship understood in its original meaning of a shaping concern for all that is of worth, comes to us from Kristi Nelson in her book, Wake Up Grateful. These may be tough times to be grateful, but denying all that is worthy of our gratitude does not protect us, nor does it help anyone or anything. Living gratefully is not about being Pollyannish or putting our head in the sand. Gratefulness faces squarely that wonder and suffering live side by side, as do disaster and beauty. Grateful living helps us never to forget that we make the biggest difference through remaining connected to what we treasure, what we want to protect, and what truly matters most. Come, let us worship together. Each week we light a flame in a chalice to signify the sacred space created whenever we gather together with intention. I invite members of the committee that planned the workshop yesterday, Maxine, Catherine, if she's here, Donna, to light our chalice as Kristi Nelson provides our chalice lighting words.
These are words from Brother David Steindl-Rast, who is my spiritual teacher, a Benedictine monk, 98-year-old, renowned interfaith dialogue leader, and inspiration to many around the world. Attention to our moments of meaning, no matter how fleeting they might be, provide us with a brief taste of the nectar, the sweetness in the chalice of all the different religions blossoming like so many flowers in the garden of this world.
I invite us to rise in body and or spirit to sing our opening hymn, number 289, in the hymnals and on the screens, with words that give thanks for an incomplete world. For in its wanting, we are reminded to take nothing we have for granted, that life's imperfections uphold our will to work together toward greater freedom. Creative love, our thanks we give. Tom? Creative love, our thanks we give. For this our world is incomplete. That struggle greets our will to live. That work awaits our hands and feet. That we are not yet fully wise, that we are in the making still, as friends who share one enterprise and strive to blend with nature's will. What though the future long delay, and still with faults we daily cope, it gives us that for which to pray, a field for toil and faith and hope. Since what we choose is what we are, and what we love we yet shall be, the goal may ever shine afar, the will to reach it makes us free.
Our story today is called The Forgiveness Garden. The names in the story are drawn from the Sanskrit language, an ancient language in which many of the sacred writings of Hinduism, Buddhism, and other regions were written. The story is also based on a real garden that is in Beirut. There was a valley, and through the valley ran a stream. The village of Vayam stood on one side, and the village of Gamte stood on the other. There was no peace in the valley, for the two villages had hated each other for a long, long time. One day, a new argument sparked. Both villages claimed a certain part of the stream as their own. Angry words flew across the stream, then stones. A Gamte boy named Karun picked up a large stone and hurled it across the water. A Vayam girl named Sama stood where the stone fell. The stone hit Sama hard on the head, and she fell to the ground. The villagers of Vyam ran to help. The villagers of Gamte cheered and ran away. The Vyams called out for revenge. They were angry, and they were afraid. Would the Gamtes never stop fighting us? They gathered around Sama, admiring her courage and plotting their revenge against the Gamtes. As days passed, Sama's pain began to lessen, but her hatred of the Gamtes grew. And in the village of Gamte, too, the people were angry, and they were afraid. Would the Vyams fight us always? They gathered around Karun, praising his courage and scheming how to defend against the Vyams. Karun secretly wondered how brave he had truly been, but his hatred for the Vyams only grew. One day, Sama walked along the stream, yearning for something to ease her aching, angry heart. She reached a calm pool and bent to drink. What she saw reflected there stopped her. She saw the ugly scar, but most of all, she saw her own dark, brooding scowl. "What have I become?" she cried. Sama wept for a long time. Then Sama looked across the stream. There, a few children from Gamte walked together. How scared and angry and sad they looked. Sama's heart softened. They are just like us, she thought. Suddenly, a few of Sama's own people ran up. "Here you are," they shouted. "The time for revenge has come." And they pulled her away to join the fight. Villagers from Vyam and Gamte crowded the stream. The Vyams held a captive. It was Karun. And they held stones. A large stone was put in Sama's hand. It was the stone that Karun had thrown. "Throw the stone at him," her people hissed. "Throw it hard." Sama looked at all the villagers, those from Vyam and those from Gamte. Their faces were like hers, had been hardened with anger and fear and hate. Suddenly, Sama knew what she had to do. "No," she said in a loud, clear voice. "I won't hurt him. Let the boy go." Her people grumbled. Sama went on. "It's time to stop fighting," she said. "We must stop hurting and hating." And she flung the large stone to the ground. "Let us build a garden instead," she said. Now all of the people grumbled. Someone shouted, "What kind of garden?" Sama knew. A forgiveness garden. Some people gasped, some scoffed, some just laughed. But some from Vyam murmured, "If Sama wants it." They let Karun go. Then they piled their stones near Sama's. Some from Gamte saw this and murmured, "It's worth a try." They added stones of their own. Only Karun hung back, scared, angry. Stone by stone, the people of the valley built a garden wall together. But they had questions. "If we forgive, must we forget all that has happened?" asked the villagers of Vyam. Sama answered, "We will sit together in the garden and decide." "Must we apologize?" asked the villagers of Gamte. "Will the Vyams apologize?" Sama answered, "The garden will help us find what is right." Still, Karun stayed apart, watching and thinking. Villagers set flowers into the soil and planted a tree. When the garden was complete, its loveliness made everyone smile. This garden is for all of us, Sama said. It can help us to put aside hate and learn what forgiveness feels like. Who will join me? At first, no one moved. No one dared. The two villages had hated each other for a long, long time. It was hard to try a new way. Then Karun, brave Karun, stepped forward. I will join you, he said to Sama. Sama of Vayam and Karun of Gamte stepped into the garden together. They sat under the tree and they began to talk. What do you think? They said. The end. Now, our children and youth, let us bless them as they go off to their family ministry programs with Go Now in Peace.
Every week in this congregation, we are provided with an opportunity to practice generosity. This is your invitation to contribute to the well-being of our congregation and to our social justice partners through the good works of organizations which receive half of this monies collected each month. Our Share the Plate recipient for the month of September is World Central Kitchen, whose motto is, "There's dignity in making sure people are fed." World Central Kitchen was started in 2010 by Chef Jose Andres and his wife, Patricia, with the help of Jose's business partner and wife, Rob and Robin Wilder, in response to a devastating earthquake in Haiti. Since then, his teams have helped provide meals to those in need all over the world, and many of you know that they are there in this country helping in the devastation in the South. For those of you present here in the meeting house, the plates will be passed by the ushers. You may also join this time of generosity via text, send your offering by mail, or charge your contribution online with a memo designating an amount to World Central Kitchen. Please give generously. Thank you.
entire self, one's best self. It's not on, apparently. Okay. Yeah. I saw when Molly waves her hands like that. It means one of three things, and I was hoping it was that my microphone wasn't on. So I was saying that in this prayer written by Rabbi Reamer, it may be helpful for some of us to think of God as it appears as one's higher self, one's best self, one's principled community, love writ large. But allow yourselves to see how you respond to these evocative words of yearning for change. I invite you to read together with me the words in italics. Now is the time for turning. The leaves are beginning to turn from green to red and orange. The birds are beginning to turn and are heading once more toward the south. The animals are beginning to turn to storing their food for the winter. For leaves, birds, and animals, turning comes instinctively. But for us, turning does not come so easily. It takes an act of will for us to make a turn. It means breaking with old habits. It means admitting that we have been wrong, and this is never easy. It means losing face. It means starting all over again, and this is always painful. It means saying, I am sorry. It means recognizing that we have the ability to change. These things are hard to do. But unless we turn, we will be trapped forever in yesterday's ways. God, help us to turn from callousness to sensitivity, from hostility to love, from pettiness to purpose, from envy to contentment, from carelessness to discipline, from fear to faith. Turn us around, O God, and bring us back toward you. Revive our lives as at the beginning, and turn us toward each other, God, for in isolation there is no life.
Good morning. As the reading from Rabbi Reimer proposes, this fall season and these high holy days are particularly suited to turning inward for reflection and turning towards one another and to life itself for renewed depths of intention and connection. The call in these times is for a transformative examination of how we choose to explicitly engage with our inner and outer lives, and to recognize that where the rubber hits the proverbial road is in each of the choices that we make in each of our given moments. As people with big hearts and good values, it seems like acting in accordance with love and a sense of faith and purpose should be a fairly natural thing, not a big deal, a no-brainer. But as we all know all too well, aligning our actions with our intentions is not easy. If it were easy, we would not need and be given the opportunity in these high holy days, and every day, really, to realign our actions with our hearts. Among the long list of what today's reading asks us to turn toward, I found myself fascinated by the inclusion of discipline. As a free-spirited youngster, I used to shudder when I heard that word. People who are disciplined seemed to be everything I was not. But as I have learned to remind myself, discipline is said to be simply remembering what we want, what we truly want. It is discipline itself that calls us back to being present, slowing down, to cultivating perspective, remembering what matters most to us, and then to acting accordingly. Perhaps, to the shudder of my younger self, discipline is what allows us to put the intention into our attention. But to what do we discipline ourselves? As many of you know, gratefulness is how I orient to life. It is my GPS, my way of being. Today, I could even dare say that it is my discipline. As a stage 4 cancer survivor, remembering that it is an unpromised miracle to wake up another day is essential to who I am and to every aspect of my well-being. I'm going to say that again. As a stage 4 cancer survivor, remembering that it is an unpromised miracle to wake up another day is essential to who I am and to every aspect of my well-being. Remembering that I will never know the count of how many days I have left, I choose to make each day count. I choose to live today with the doors of my heart banging on their hinges, making sure that I do not wake up tomorrow. Making sure that if I do not wake up tomorrow, making sure I have left it all on the field, so to speak. I don't let people wonder whether I love them. Living my life gratefully is my discipline. It is my moment-to-moment practice. It's where my rubber hits my road. When we live gratefully, we are more naturally connected and oriented to what matters most. We are more conscious of the extraordinary opportunities each of our moments affords us. Gratefulness shows up in how we show up and the choices we make. It shows itself in the love we embody and offer. It is discernible. And as a discipline, it gives back. It gives back everything it takes and far, far more. Living gratefully sure sounds good, but how do we get there? How do we learn to actually feel and act more gratefully? I ask you to consider this question. What if you woke up tomorrow with only the things that you were grateful for yesterday? Think about this for a moment. If you went to the workshop, you may have a little advantage because yesterday we talked a lot about what we were grateful for. But on any given day, what if you woke up tomorrow with only the things that you were grateful for yesterday? Without cheating and throwing all kinds of extra things in the cart, what would you actually have tomorrow? What did you actively feel truly grateful for? And how might this have shown up? What did you feel thankful for? Your car, the water coming out of the faucet, your phone, your knees, your mind, your hands, the roof over your head, the sheets on your bed, a window. You probably inhaled deeply and felt true appreciation for your coffee or your tea. But how about the cow who offered up your dairy and the wavy hills of grain that gave you what you nibbled on? And what about your very ability to take that deep, life-giving breath? Who did you feel thankful for? Those people you love and appreciate most? Those whose care, labor, and service you rely on every day? Who among these might you have thanked? Who did you remember to take a few of your moments to love and appreciate out loud? Did you let yourself feel and share the thin-skinned heart outside your body, interconnected, precious vulnerability of gratefulness? Foundationally, gratefulness calls us to notice that we are actually alive. No small deal. We can start here with the breath, with the body, with the air. Can you let yourself feel it? This privilege of being alive. We are here today, and it was not promised to us. To honor life is to remember that there are millions of people who would have given anything to be here today. Anything. Marlon Rico Lee says, be grateful for the things and people you have in your life. Everything you take for granted, someone else is praying for. Think about this. It's true. Every little and big thing that we have, someone somewhere is praying for. And the profound truth is that life itself is the greatest among these, greatest among the things we take for granted, that what others would be and are praying for. We are called to the practice, the discipline really, of reminding ourselves that every present moment is the chance to more fully open our hearts to recognize the privilege of being alive, and then to let ourselves act on that. It is in acting from a grateful heart that we can make the biggest difference in our own lives, in the lives of others, and in the world. The truly good news about the question I asked you to consider about waking up tomorrow with only what you were grateful for yesterday is that we have today. Thank God and thank goodness there's a day in between yesterday and tomorrow. The question does not ask us about today because today lives now, in between the tug of the past and the pull of the future. And now is always our biggest opportunity. It's the one true opportunity we have. Now is when we have the chance to do and say the things that keep our regrets at bay. Now is when we can acknowledge and make use of the blessings that we have been given in this life. Now is what can allow today's tomorrow to look a little bit more intentional and aligned than yesterday's today. So what to do? Are we willing to discipline our attention and action in favor of the endless reasons to feel grateful, the endless people and things that we appreciate? Are we willing to ask and say the things we've been aching to ask and say? Are we willing to do the things we've been longing to do? Are we willing to walk through our day with thank you in our hearts and on our lips? Because as wild and woolly as this fact is, tomorrow is an unpromised proposition. Everything about these times wisely cautions us not to put things off. If gratefulness is actually how the heart longs to live, if we would only give it the reins, are we willing to turn those reins over to gratefulness, to turn ourselves towards love and be that brave, that vulnerable, that unbridled, and then get up and be that way again tomorrow? Are we? It is my living prayer that your heart is a yes to this living gratefully. Do it for yourself, please. Do it for your loved ones, your community, your values and the things you value, the human family, the earth. Do it for life.
When I was invited to be part of today, knowing what we were going to experience yesterday, I couldn't avoid this song because it's not my song and I've never sung it. Yay, fear. I've never sung it in public, but it's a song that has been very meaningful to me, and it's called Grateful, so how could you not? So I just want to put out there that, and I apologize, we lost a very, very dear friend Friday. So yesterday, I'm sorry, I was just so filled with gratitude for having shared, what I've shared with our good friend Jim and his family. So I don't know how this is going to go. If anybody wants to join in, please help. Please go along with it. But I'm showing up. I'm just putting it out there. And I'm grateful. Love you, Tom. Deep breath. I've got a roof over my head. I've got a warm place to sleep. Some nights I lie awake counting gifts instead of counting sheep. I've got a heart that can hold love. I've got a mind that can think. There may be times when I lose the light, let my spirit sink, but I can't stay depressed when I remember how I'm blessed. Grateful, grateful, truly grateful I am. Grateful, grateful, truly blessed and duly grateful. In a city of strangers, I've got a family of friends. No matter what rocks and brambles fill the way, I know that they will stay. Until the end. I feel a hand holding my hand. It's not a hand you can see, but on the road to the promised land, this hand will shepherd me through the delight and despair, holding tight and always there. Grateful, truly grateful I am. Grateful, grateful, truly blessed and duly grateful. It's not that I don't want a lot, or hope for more, dream of more. Giving thanks for what I've got makes me so much happier than keeping score. In a world that can bring pain, I will still take the chance, for I believe that wherever the terrain, my feet can learn to dance. Whatever stone life may sling, we can moan or we can sing. Grateful, grateful, truly grateful I am. Grateful, grateful, truly blessed and duly grateful. Truly blessed and duly grateful.
through the doors of fear, as you yourself told us. Beautiful. And we are grateful to both of you for what you've offered us today. At tea time this week, I mused about the power of our intentions. What if, I said, what if everyone in the world, all at the same time, this time of year in which Jewish tradition asks us to pause, what if everyone in the darkness of the new moon imagined how new life might wax into their lives and all those whose lives they touched? If they paused and asked forgiveness, paused and forgave others and themselves, paused and turned the page. Wednesday night, Rosh Hashanah, which means the head of the year, began a celebration of a new year of covenant and relationship in Jewish communities. One of the symbols of the day is the ram's horn known as the shofar, whose blasts gave the day its original Hebrew name of Yom Teruah. We'll hear that shofar at the end of the service. Another symbol are the apples that are a part of the season, along with honey, to augur the longed-for sweetness of the year to come. And the 10 days, starting with Rosh Hashanah and ending with Yom Kippur, are commonly known as the days of awe, Yamim Noraim. Now, in a culture where awesome can be the response to things on a continuum of banality, I think we can safely say we've lost track of what that word actually means. Awe, a mixed emotion of reverence and wonder, inspired by authority, genius, great beauty, sublimity, might, but also dread. In fact, the word awe comes from the Gothic word agus, for fear. A new year has begun, the year 5785. And so also begin days of introspection, self-examination, and prayer. The holiday gives us a chance to reaffirm who we are and to make an intentional choice to work on growth for ourselves in order that together we might bring more love and healing and grace into a world that so often seems so broken. Rosh Hashanah, a reminder to us all that change is possible. Change is more than possible. It is a requirement for a life well lived. One of the structuring metaphors of the days of awe is the concept that there are books into which our lives are written down, added to each year in preparation for the next. This concept of writing in books is the source of the common greeting during this time. L'shana tova tikateh v'tikatemu, or may you be inscribed and sealed for a good year. It is held that while the new installment of each person is inscribed on Rosh Hashanah, it is not sealed until Yom Kippur. The 10 days are therefore an opportunity to give a good thinking to one's life, the good and the not so good. Now is the time for turning the page and to laying the groundwork for the coming year, the coming version of each of us. As Tom reminded us in his beautiful song with which he began our service this morning, so many things in our lives can seem like walls or defeats, when actually they might well represent new opportunities. They call us to come out of hiding, to come into the light. What in your life is calling you out? What in your life is calling out to be looked at anew? Now it is the time for turning the page and for embracing a new way of seeing. Among the customs of the days of awe, it is common to seek reconciliation with people we may have wronged or people who may have wronged us, to ask for forgiveness and to forgive, as we saw in this morning's Story Wisdom segment. In forgiving, we cease to be nagged by the pangs of guilt or the vendettas that constrict our minds, and instead liberate ourselves to live anew, back in relationship with loved ones, or at least more at peace with the past, so that sparks of new life can leap from the smoldering embers of regret. Who in your life can you imagine forgiving? Who might you speak to about claiming responsibility for your actions and asking for forgiveness? The answer to both those questions, by the way, may be yourself. Now is the time for turning the page, for seeking reconciliation. Beyond freeing ourselves from the past and having goals for the days to come, however, living into the promise that the days of awe give us, they give us the freedom to imagine those days. That will take practice. And there are practices we can put into place that will enhance our joy and well-being. Practices that, as Kristi Nelson has reminded us again this morning, practices that can begin with gratitude. Now is the time for turning the page and to set in motion new practices. All the lessons of the days of awe stem from the awesome reality that humans have been celebrating since they became aware that intentionality and change were possible in the universe. We can turn the page. We can. We can encourage one another in that turning. Now is the time for turning, for laying the groundwork, for a new version of ourselves, for embracing a new way of seeing, for seeking reconciliation, for developing new practices, and for joining in movements of change that will at least guarantee a change in us. These truly are awesome days. So may it be so for us this new year, and may this new year be a sweet one. And I want you to turn in your hymnals or look at the screens. I'm going to enter into a time of prayer and meditation that will lead into the shofar playing and lead us to the conclusion. We bring into this space both our joys and our sorrows, for we know that sharing ourselves with one another brings healing and solidarity. So I'm going to just ask that we take a few seconds of silence and then end with this sung prayer in Hebrew, Hashivenu. The English meaning of the words are, turn us toward you, Holy One, that we might return. Renew our days now as of old. I will sing it through once and then ask you to join me in singing it through a second time. So in this silence, I invite us to think, how do we want to inscribe ourselves into a new intentional time of change and growth? And let us hold one another in our care. Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, v'nashuva, Kadesh, Yameinu Kekudem, Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, v'nashuva, Kadesh, Kadesh, Yameinu Kekudem. We move into the closing moments of our service this morning with a fivefold sequence of bless on the shofar that serve as a summons, a realization of brokenness, a celebration of the ability to change, a determination to enter that process, and a resolve to begin anew. I will describe each of the blasts that Paul Sherman, as he has done for so many years, will gift us them on the shofar. First is the tekiah, from taka, to play, which indicates the blowing of wind into the instrument. It is an alert, a long note that summons us to attention. The tekiah. Next are the shivarim, the plural noun taken from the verb shavar, to break or fracture. These are 3 twice-pulsed notes sounding like sobs, perhaps a broken-hearted contemplation of what in the past could now use some attention or amends. These blasts are symbolic of the place from which we will travel, what we will leave behind. The shivarim. Next is the tirua, a verb related to the word heiria, for a cheer or a cry. The tirua is both an alarm and a celebration of sorts, a shaking ourselves out of inaction into the action of retrospection and change, and it's a series of short staccato sounds that celebrate our ability to rouse ourselves toward novelty. The tirua. And next, what is typically the final sequence of Rosh Hashanah, another tekiah like the one that started us off, and which with a strong blast of intentionality propels us into the days of awe, in which the work of self-improvement and amends takes place. The second tekiah. And finally, the sound which ends the service of Yom Kippur, the tekiah gadola, a great tekiah, a longer burst of determination that sends us off into the pages of a new year's book, a turning toward greater embrace of our best selves, most powerfully approximated with care in community, the tekiah gadola. Hear these words taken from The Cry and the Call by Rabbi Ora Nitkin Kanner. Tekiah, the shout. Shivarim, the fracture. Tirua, the breach. This year has contained so much alarm, so much fracture and fear of shatter. We know our society has been broken for a long time, but now the cracks are widening, chasms are forming, and we have been afraid of falling, of being consumed. We ourselves have been shattered, emotionally, physically, spiritually, politically. Shards of our hope for ourselves, our communities, our country, our world surround us, and it's hard to move without feeling how they pierce us, feeling like a reminder of brokenness and of failure. Shevarim, the Hebrew word for breaking, for fracture, also means destruction, calamity. Mashber, from the same root, is the modern Hebrew word for crisis, but mashber is also the Hebrew word for birthing stool. Tekiah, the shout. Shevarim, the shatter. Tirua, the breaking open. What will this moment give birth to? Birth is terrifying, messy, laborious. Birth is painful and destructive, and it is awe-inspiring, creating new life in the world. What shatter needs to happen so that the world can be reworked, made fresh, made new? This is a birthing moment. It will demand our breath, our patience, our fierceness, our energy, the whole of who we are. It will be messy, and it will be worth it. Takia, the call. Shevarim, the breaking into. Tirua, the breaking open. We cannot do this alone. We cannot leave anyone behind, including our past selves, full of misjudgments and fears. We need everyone to be calling to each other, to be calling out towards the world we are creating. We are calling out to the future. The shofar is not just an instrument of repentance. It is a call to move forward, a call to believe that change is possible. Thank you, Paul. And I invite us now to rise in body and our spirit to sing our closing hymn, number 128, in our hymnals and on the screens, For All That Is Our Life. From When Death Comes, the words of Mary Oliver.
When it's over, I want to say, all my life I was a bride married to amazement.
I was the bridegroom taking the world into my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I have made of my life something particular and real.
I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument.
I don't want to end up simply having visited this world. Thank you to Kristi. Thank you to Tom. Thank you to Paul. Let us go in peace to bless the world.